My 3-year-old son, August, told me that he chose me to be his mother before he was born. Not too long after he told me about how he chose me and slid down on a string into me, it was another night. This was when I was putting him to bed. He looks over at me and says, you know, you weren't always my mother. I had another family before you, and you weren't with me. I thought that was kind of strange. He said that my family sent us out. We had to go. I remember him saying over and over again, we had to go out into the forest. And I just listened to him, and he said, in the forest, we had to look for and I had to get my animal. When he'd start looking back and forth as if he was walking back and forth or pacing, it seemed like he was acting it out a little bit right in front of me. I was concerned that it could have been frightening for him. I remember him saying I was a boy. He said I wasn't a man.
August told her that he went out into the woods and they had a specific task that they had to complete, that all boys had to go through. There was danger involved. There was skill that you had to use in order to complete your task. And he went out and did it. That would be a rites of passage. We knew that we'd never talked about a rites of passage, a quest or something going out into the jungle, into the wild, and completing a task. We didn't have that conversation. And as far as I knew, he didn't see things like that on TV and definitely not in the movies, because we were at every movie they had gone to at that point. So it was just something that did come from nowhere.
We had to spend a lot of time waiting for August, who had to inspect everything. First, he collected all of the sticks, and that was fine. It was like, okay, fine, you can collect the sticks. But then there was another level to it after a while. He says, well, I need to sharpen them. He kept going on, and he says, I used to have knives. He says, I know how to use a knife.
We don't own guns, we don't own knives, we don't go hunting on the weekend.
We'd say, you know, August, you're too young, and what are you gonna do with a knife? What are you gonna do with it now? You're just gonna be able to look at it because we're not gonna let you use it. And he says, no, I won't use it. I'll just hold on to it. I just wanna look at it. You know, he'd try every angle he could just to get the knife. So we said, okay, well, if you're just gonna get it and just to look at it, it's decorative, then we'll just get you some little knives.
Okay, we'll get it only if you never take it out, you never show it to anybody. We keep it where you can't get access to it all the time.
So we got him several little knives, all different kinds.
And he would look at it, be excited about it, and I felt that he was appreciating the workmanship.
After about the 4th or 5th knife, he came home from school and he said, Mom, I really want to go out in the yard and sharpen one of my sticks. We'd never let him do that before. Maybe if I let him do it one time, he'll get it out of his system and he'll leave me alone. He won't ask me anymore. So I said, okay, you have to go outside and I have to stand right next to you and I'll see how it's going and then we'll stop and you'll come inside and have a snack. So he said, okay. And we go outside, and I sit down with him, and he just stripped the whole thing down to a point in like no time. So then he just looks at me. I'm not bleeding, I'm fine, and I know how to use these knives. But he was only like 6. Some of the things he told me might point to a vision quest, the way I understood it. So I started to do a little research about that, because I didn't know anything about Native rituals and what were some of the things that boys or men did. And I did find some records of some tribes on the border between Panama and Costa Rica that had what I felt was some similarities to the story that August was telling. Something that was a bit more mystical than just a ritual. I kept thinking of this thing very logically, but I still had a lot of questions. Just before his 8th birthday, we were out in Long Island at a small beach, and he was playing with his brother. He picks this one stone out, and he runs over to me, holds it up, and says, this is an arrowhead. I look at it, it looked like a rock to me. And I said, really? And he said, no, This is an arrowhead. He was positive. So we all gather around him and everybody's looking down at this stone. He turns it over in his palm of his hands and he says, something's wrong with it. This is not the kind that I used to use. This one's different. And I said, well, what's different about it? And he didn't even say a word. He gets a piece of paper and he draws me a little sketch. He says, this is the kind that I used to use. His arrowhead had more of a notch at the bottom. He said to me that night, we have to go to the museum. I want to ask them about this arrowhead. So I said, okay, fine, we'll do that when we get back to New York, when we get back to the city. But every single day, he would sit and stare at the stone every night. He's staring at it, he's feeling it, he's turning it over and over, he's talking about it. He says, I know what this is. I need to know who used to use it. Where did it come from? And who was around here? I had no idea. I had no concept of the indigenous groups out in Long Island. And still, I was a little skeptical, and I actually was wondering how he would feel if they said it wasn't an arrowhead, that it was just a rock. Then I didn't want him to be brokenhearted about it, so I was like, okay, we're gonna have to go through this. So I took him one day after school. I walk up to the librarian. I said, is there anyone here who could look at this rock that my son found and perhaps tell us something about it? He takes it out of his pocket and he hands it to the man. And he takes it over to a desk and he looks at it. And we're all wondering what he's gonna say. August was right. In this case, I was happy to be proved wrong because it just confirmed all of the stories that he had been telling me for years. August was very, very proud of the fact that he recognized something that no one else could recognize, and it was because it was something that he used to use, something that he used to make. So he kept that arrowhead, which he still has to this day, in a little pouch on his bed. He never goes to sleep without it. He checks to make sure it's there every night.
I'm August, I'm 17, and I just finished my senior year of high school. Getting the arrowhead authenticated was one of the last moments of me remembering past memories. And in a way, I feel the arrowhead really represented my memories.
My mother's mother, I found out very late in life, was adopted. I felt that there was so much I didn't know about my grandmother. So I did some research and went into this whole genealogical thing. I discovered that grandma, my grandmother, was part of a tribe in either Costa Rica or Panama.
I think it's very interesting that my family is connected to a Central America tribe. I'm not sure if that directly correlates to my personal experience. Maybe it does.
I think the context of the research that I was doing, that I was presenting to him, he wasn't sure if this was what he lived or if it was this particular group or not.
It's just an area of mystery. Through my mom accepting my past experiences, it allowed me to accept it in a way because I knew I wasn't alone. And I guess that made me feel safe, that it was okay to say these types of things. It was just a feeling of acceptance.
My mother used to say to me all the time, she said, there are no mistakes and there are no coincidences. And when I was younger, I didn't think that that was true. But looking back on many things that happened and the stories that August have told me, I know that there's no mistaking what he said to me and what it should mean to me. I've discovered that August has transferred his tribal mentality to baseball, and he brings that same warrior-type mentality to his teammates.
August is absolutely still the warrior.
I use tribe and family interchangeably. We're a family, and we always have each other's backs.
The way that I understand it, I think he's now invested in this life, so he doesn't need to remember that anymore. I think he's brought from the past with him the positive aspects of whatever he lived before, and I feel that he's moving upward with beauty and grace, and I couldn't be more proud of him.
my future. It's another life. There's pain, there's beauty, and through all of it, it's still life. I've always been confused about time, especially when I was younger. It seemed like just a few blinks and everything can be over. Life has already passed by. And it's what you do in between the blinks that really defines you. And remembering that maybe there is another chance for another life really makes me want to do the best I can now.